So a few weeks ago I attended the largest Warhammer Fantasy tournament in Sweden. And today I'm gonna tell you and show you how that went. Hello and welcome to the Miscast table. My name is Måns, and during the last week of February this year I played in a Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition tournament in Falun called Dalaslaget. It is, as far as I know, it's the largest Warhammer Fantasy tournament in Sweden. And if you've been following the channel for a while, you've probably seen that we've hinted quite a lot that we're going to attend this tournament. And I was going to go with my co-host Jonas, but unfortunately he got COVID and could not attend. But instead I brought with me André. André has been on this channel twice before, playing Bretonnia, if I'm not mistaken. And he's also the chairman of our local gaming association. So we went together. And we live in a small place called Storuman, and this tournament is played in Falun, which is an 8.5 hour drive without stops. So quite a long trip, all in great fun. But for now, let's take a look at the list that I played. So here we have them, my 2,400 points of Orcs and Goblins. And why Orcs and Goblins, you might ask? Well, I've been playing a lot of Dark Elves recently, and during the last three, I think, local tournaments I've been playing Dark Elves, so this time I wanted to try something new. So I brought out my newly painted Orcs and Goblins. And this list is built with the Swedish comp system, so now might be a good time to talk about that. And the Swedish comp system is basically a way to balance both the lists and the factions and make sure that everyone's bringing lists of about equal strength. And it does this by giving every unit and every model a point cost, and also depending on how many models you have in every unit, you can get a different point cost. And the tournament organizers decide beforehand what kind of comp score you're allowed to have at the tournament. And in this tournament you were allowed to have a comp score anywhere between 12 and 20. And the lower the comp score you have, the stronger your list is considered to be. So if we have a unit like these Doom Divers, for example, these are widely considered to be a very strong Orc and Goblins units and a very strong war machine. So these are quite expensive to bring and have quite a high comp score. So I'm not going to talk too much about the Swedish comp system, but I am going to put a link to it in the description down below so you can read up yourself if you like. But what you should know is that the system puts some restrictions on you when you're building your list. For example, here I have 50 Night Goblins, and in the beginning I wanted to bring 100. But that is almost impossible with the restrictions of the Swedish comp system. So it makes it a bit harder to build a crazy strong list. And that's the entire point, to even it out by kind of killing the super strong strategies. But we can start here, where I started before, with the Night Goblins. I said I was gonna bring 100 Night Goblins in the beginning, but this is 50. 50 Night Goblins with a spider banner, so they have poison attacks, range of 18, and these guys are lots of fun to play. Unfortunately, these are not mine. I had to borrow these from André, but they are really nicely painted. And sorry André, I accidentally broke one, so I'll glue that for you before you get it back. In that unit, I of course have two Fanatics, a must-have. These are also the kind of unit that are quite expensive to bring on the Swedish comp. So I was thinking about bringing like a ton of them, but in the end I could only afford to bring 2. And then I have my big block of Savage Orc Big Guns. And if you're watching this channel for a while, you've definitely seen these before. I bring these pretty much every time I play the Orcs and Goblins. I like this unit so much. They have Frenzy, additional hand weapons. So in total, I think if I can hit with all of them, I think they hit like 50 attacks. And the first round of combat is like strength 5 or something like that. It's nasty. They are very strong. The big downside is of course that they have Frenzy, quite a low leadership, so they could be forced to charge if you don't pass the leadership test. But that's why I keep my general with them. Together with this unit, we have a Savage Orc Great Shaman with the Lucky Shrunken Head. And the Savage Orc Big Guns have a ward save of 6+, but when you have the Lucky Shrunken Head, they get a 5+ ward save. And the difference in a ward save between a 6 and a 5 is massive. So that's gonna save a lot of orc lives here, I think. And we have a general, it's a black orc war boss. I mainly use this because it has Quell Animosity, and I can't really afford to get to fail animosity tests on this big unit, because that could easily cost me the game. So when I rely so heavily on these guys, I really like to bring a black orc war boss. Then we have some more generals of sorts. We have my this is a Night Goblin big boss with the BSB, so this is my battle standard bearer, and he is riding with the Night Goblin unit here. And then we have a Night Goblin Shaman level 2 wizard with the lore of the, is it called Little Wa, I think? And this guy, of course, level 3 wizard with lore of the Big Wa. And then we have the war machines here in the front. First we have the Goblin Spear Shaka, and this is basically a point filler you put in when you when you don't know what you're gonna spend your last points on. It's 35 points. It's ballistic skill 3, so it's gonna hit on 5s most of the time, long range. But it does have strength 6, so if you get lucky, this could easily kill something. And multiple wounds D3 as well. So it's not at all bad for 35 points. You can easily pay itself back. And then we have 2 Goblin Doom Divers. And in my opinion, these are easily one of the best war machines in the entire game. They're quite cheap, 85 points, extremely accurate, and they deal D6 strength 5 hits with no armor saves allowed, if I'm not mistaken. So extremely accurate, they can deal a lot of damage, and they do great work. They're not as strong as like these strength 10 hits you have from rock lobbers and stuff, but the accuracy more than makes up for it. They also have a quite nice misfire table as well, so you can luck out on that as well. Then I have my trolls, 6 trolls in total, regular trolls with regeneration, and these guys have a leadership of 4, I think, and stupidity. So I need to keep these guys in the leadership bubble at all times. Otherwise they're gonna fail all their stupidity tests and they're gonna do nothing. So very important to keep these guys in the leadership bubble. And a few of the scenarios are quite problematic when you consider the leadership of these guys. Because we play the Dawn Attack, for example. And then you roll where you place your units. And I'm not gonna spoil anything, but if they get placed away from my leader and my leadership bubble, things could get problematic. So in certain types of scenarios, these are quite problematic. But in the instances where I get to place them wherever I want, I can keep them in the bubble and I don't have any problems. This unit here is basically like a big filler unit of orc boys. Just regular orc boys, they don't have additional hand weapons or anything. I couldn't afford it. We have the orc horror boys here as well, also a little bit to fill out the core slot. And now you might ask, why did you bring so many like filler units? And number 1 is the Swedish comp system, but number 2 is the fact that everything here on the table plus this guy is all the Orcs and Goblins models that I currently have painted. And that said, I had to borrow 50 Night Goblins from André as well. So I didn't really have a large collection to pick and choose from. It was kind of like, yeah, I need to play with what I have painted. I have a lot more Orcs and Goblin stuff, but it's not painted, and when you go to a tournament I don't want to bring grey stuff. Even though it was allowed, it doesn't really feel right. So I brought basically everything that I had painted and tried to make it work somehow. Aside from that, I have the Orc Boar Chariot. I really love this guy. I've been trying to play with chariots for other factions, like the Dark Elves, and I hate chariots for other factions. I can never make them work. But for some reason, this Boar Chariot always does work. And it might be because it has the Tusker Charge, which gives it a strength 5 on the boars when he charge, and also strength 5 impact hits and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like this guy can very often win win some important combats for me. Then I brought a giant. Maybe not the best choice in the world, but this is one of the most fun models to play in the entire game, in my opinion. The attack table and the rolls for giants are super fun. And a lot of people think that the giant is completely terrible and it's just a sponge for cannonballs, and to some extent I do agree, but it does definitely have its strength. For example, you can use giants to hunt down monsters, and they're actually quite good at that. So my main goal with this guy was to use it to hunt down monsters. So I try to place it quite late when I know where the opponent places his monster and try to get into combat with that. Because some of the rolls that the giant can do against monsters, I think they can do like, is it 2d6 automatic wounds or something like that? If you roll a 3 to 5, yeah, so something along those lines. And then I have a Mangler Squig. This is super cool. My wife painted this for me like 2 days before I went to the tournament. And this model is a lot of fun. It basically works like the Fanatics. It has random movement, 3d6, and you can nominate the direction where it's gonna move, 3d6. But after it has hit the unit, it's gonna make 3d6, 2d6, strength 6 hits against that unit. And after that it has completely random movement, where you randomize direction it moves as well. So it could move into your own units, or it could move into impassable terrain and blow itself up and stuff like that. But I find this really strong against war machines, because if you drive this into war machine, you can make a lot of wounds quite quickly, and it's also quite hard to kill with shooting attacks, because it counts as having soft cover, because they are so crazy, or whatever you say. And they're also only like 80 points, or maybe even less, 65 points. So if your opponent decides to focus them and you lose them, then it's no big deal, to be honest. But this definitely attracts attention, and that's good. You can attract attention away from your more important units. Then I had 2 units of Squig Herders. I only have 1 unit here because the other unit was also lent from André, and I already given that back. But these guys are super fun. The Squigs have like strength 5 or something like that. So these are way more nasty than they seem. I brought 2 small units of them, because what happens if they lose combat and fail the leadership test, and they have like leadership 4 or something like that, then they explode, and you do d6 plus 1 hit for every 5 Squigs that were left alive when they exploded. Strength 5 or something like that. So even if you can go into combat, you can deal quite a lot of wounds, you still lose combat, but then they blow up and deal even more wounds. So they can kind of do like kamikaze attacks, so that's why I brought 2 small units, and I wasn't afraid at all to like throw these away, because I think this unit with 10 Squigs and 2 Herders is like, it's less than 100 points, so they are super cheap. So yeah, that is the complete Orc and Goblins army. I must say, if I'm going to play in a tournament in the near future, which I am, then I'm going to bring an army with a bit fewer models. It's quite the hassle to put up and rank up all these models after every single game. I almost went insane there at the end, but it was loads of fun to play these guys. And with that, let's get into the tournament, but we're gonna start with the classic travel footage. We are on the road. I hope the sound is alright, but we are going to Dalaslaget in Falun. So we have started our 8.5 hour road trip.
Yeah, I think we are about 40 minutes in.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. 2 days of Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition. It's gonna be amazing. We have the armies loaded here in the back. How are you feeling? Feeling excited?
I'm pumped and I'm a little bit nervous. Feels like we're going into heat of the battle where most Swedish best players, probably the best players in Sweden in Warhammer 8th edition maybe, and specifically Swedish comp then maybe.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's gonna be a really rough competition, so I hope I will not make a fool of myself at least.
Oh, it's too late already. It's way too late. No, but it feels a bit like we're going into the Lion's Den. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna spend like 3 days in a hotel in Falun, play war games, and yeah, it's gonna be a great time, I think.
I would.
Have arrived.
Hello.
Oh, hello. We are in Falun.
Falun.
And you have very expensive parking, Falun. We have to look everywhere. And it cost us $10 for the night.
Yes, in Storuman it costs zero.
It's free. Free. Hello. Now we have arrived at the hotel. We have André over here. We were afraid that we were gonna get one bed, but we did manage to get two. But we will put them together tonight so we can
Cozy up
together. Yeah. Yeah, but we arrived at the hotel. The hotel is actually super nice. So yeah, we're gonna get our list printed out from the hotel lobby a bit later, and then we're gonna study some rules. See you tomorrow. Good night. What time is it now, Andrea?
It's time to go.
It's go time. Go time. Are you ready?
Ready.
Oh, I don't have the mic on this one. It's gonna be bad sound, but they have to live with
closer,
it. Yeah.
maybe speak.
Yeah.
So we are on site. We have meet a couple of people. It's a very nice environment.
Yeah.
Like always, nerds is the best people to hang around.
Yeah.
So it's very fun.
We need to go look at this is the prices.
Yes. So mine is that one.
Yeah.
Måns can maybe borrow it.
Yeah, maybe. So we have arrived in Falun at the venue, and the tournament consists of 5 matches that are played over 2 days. And it's a 2,400 point tournament that uses the Swedish comp system for list building. And during the first day we play 3 matches, and during the second day we play 2 matches. And the first match is Dawn Attack, which is fitting because it's in the morning. Match 2 is Battle for the Pass, and the third match and the final match for the first day is Battle Line. Day 2 starts with the 4th match, which is Meeting Engagement, and then we end the tournament with match 5, which is Battle Line. The winner is decided by whom has won the most amount of matches, and if multiple players have the same amount of won matches, the ties are decided by points. So in every match you can get a score somewhere between 20 and 0, and if you win by 20-0 you absolutely table your opponent. The other way around, if you lose with 0-20 you get absolutely tabled. 10-10 is a draw, and 11-9 for example is a very close match. And you count up the points as you would do usually, basically, as seen in the rulebook with some minor changes. One of those is that because we are playing Swedish comp, the player with the higher comp score gets an extra 75 points for every comp score point difference there is. So for example, the highest comp score you're allowed to have in this tournament is 20, and the lowest is 12. So if a player with a comp score 20 plays a player with a comp score of 12, there's a comp score difference of 8. So you take 8 times 75 and you get 600 points. So the player with the higher comp score is awarded 600 points additionally when all the other points has been tallied up. And now you might ask yourself, well, how is this fair? Well, a high comping army is considered to be weaker than a low comping army. So if you're playing a low comping army, you might not only need to win the match, but you probably also need to win it quite decisively. And if you're playing a high comping army, for example, that's considered to be weaker, a draw might be enough on the table, and the extra point you're awarded because of the comp score will probably give you the win. So there is some strategy to how you build a list and how your comp score gets. And the players who place first, second and third get a prize, and I believe it's a gift card for a hobby store here in Sweden. But aside from that, there's also loads of other prizes you can get. There is a prize for best painted, there is a prize for best themed army, and there's also loads of smaller achievements, such as Abracadabra, for example. It's the first player who gets a miscast. There's also a prize for the first player who sends his wizard into the warp, and a lot of other like fun achievements. I think you can get smaller prizes from. But that is all I have to say about the tournament right now. If you have any questions about the tournament, please write them down below. And with that, let's head into the first game. So it's the first game of the day and first game of the tournament, and I got matched up against one of the guys from Ten Island Gaming. It's a group of guys from the southern parts of Sweden that also make Warhammer Fantasy content. They make like more compact battle reports where they talk over the turns. So if you do like Warhammer Fantasy, you definitely go check them out. And my opponent was playing this beautifully painted Tomb King's army. It was super nice looking, and in my opinion, he's definitely one of the contenders for best painted. My opponent was a very good player, very experienced. He played in this tournament many times before. He has won it, I think, if I'm not entirely mistaken. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong. He has at least placed very well in the tournament before. On that I am sure. I got a few pictures and stuff of the army, but it's a different thing taking pictures in your basement with a light box and taking them outside on actual table with regular lightings. I'm not used to doing that, so I definitely have some improvement to do on that part. And since it was in the morning and it was first game, we were playing Dawn Attack, and most of you probably know how Dawn Attack works, but you basically divide the playing field into like 3 halves, where if you roll a 3 to a 5, you place your units in the center. If you roll a 1, you place it on the left flank, and on a 2 you place it on the right flank, and on a 6 you get to choose. And here my opponent is placing its units, and I actually got super lucky, because the first unit that he placed, that is closest to the camera here on the right side, is where his Hierophant is. So depending on how he rolls here, his Hierophant could actually be quite lonely on that side. So if I just get lucky and get a lot of my units here in the middle, I could quite easily start to target his Hierophant and put some pressure on. Because if I manage to kill the Hierophant, his army basically starts to crumble. So here I have placed my entire army, and I couldn't get as much stuff as I wanted down here on closest, but I get two of my squigs and my Magdra squig here on the side. My opponent gets the first turn, and he's moving up his archers. The archers of the Tomb Kings are really nasty, because they always hit on 5s, I think, no matter if they moved or distance or everything, so quite cool. I actually have a Tomb Kings army in the basement, but it's not painted and just in parts, so I actually don't know the rules that well for Tomb Kings. But he's bringing, aside from the archers here, he has 3 of those, what are they called, War Sphinxes, and they are super nasty. And the problem here, I want to focus a lot of my stuff on his Hierophant unit, but my big block of Savage or Big Guns has to go towards his Sphinx, because if I turn them too much towards his Hierophant, I'm gonna eat a flank charge. So I basically need to hold them off while I send my squigs towards the Hierophants and stuff here. So here he's casting the magic. He has the Casket of Souls, I think it's called, and it has like a plague kind of spell. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it deals wounds to a unit, and then it can jump to a unit that is within 6 inches, I think. And since my units are quite close together, he managed to throw that between my units quite a few times. Since my units are so large, he'd never killed enough to cause like panic tests and stuff, but yeah, he still shipped me down a little bit here. And here he's doing some shooting attacks with his archers, and he also has, you can't see it that well, but here closest he also has a, what is it called? No, it's not called a skull cannon. It's like a screaming skull or something like that. It's a ballista type thing. And I also tried to send my Mangler Squig towards this Hierophant here and see what I can do. It's a bit sad that my big unit of regular orc boys during this game, 4 out of 6 times when I rolled on the animosity table, I rolled a 1 and they couldn't do anything. So yeah, that was rough. So they're basically out of the game, so to speak, because they're never gonna get the chance to really do anything here. And I just marked my stuff up, and he keeps playing quite defensively. He doesn't want to meet up with me or anything. He just tries to keep the distance, ship me down little by little using shooting attacks and magic and such. And he has more shooting, or at least shooting that can reach further than I do. And he has a better magic phase as well, so the clock is kind of ticking for me, so I have to be quite aggressive. Here I make a charge with my Boar Chariot, which I make, and I also hit him with the Mangler Squigs. And I'm not sure if you noticed there, but my giant got taken out by the archers as well. He made some really good shooting attacks and took it out. But I did manage to hit his units with the Hierophant over there in closest, and that means that the Mangler Squig now is gonna have random direction to its movement as well in the upcoming turns. Here is one of the few turns that I actually managed to move my orc boys. Yeah. And as you can see, when you have this kind of deployment where you don't really get to choose where you place your units, since my units are so big, they kind of block each other. It's not optimal to be forced to place them a certain way, because yeah, my trolls are a little bit locked out behind my own units, which isn't that great. Here I'm making some shooting attacks as well against his, is it called a Hero Titan? The big Titan dude he has there in the back, because that gives him a, is it 3+ to his casting during magic, and that's super nasty. So I tried to take it out with my Doom Divers and such. I've made a few wounds on it, but it is not dead yet, unfortunately. Here we're once again resolving the magic from this Casket of Souls that spreads between my units. And we are soon gonna go into a... I think we're doing it now, we're doing the close combat for the... No, it was shooting attacks, but soon we're gonna do the close combat for the chariots and the bowman over there. And it's looking a bit rough for my chariot here. It probably can't win this combat, but it does run away and it doesn't catch me. So I have quite a good chance to charge myself during the next turn. So that feels quite great. Roll some animosity tests again here. And I actually managed to fail animosity once more with the orc boys units, which is terrible. And I think I rolled the worst one as well, where the orc boys hit a unit close to them, so both of them take wounds and can't do anything the next turn. So neither my night goblins nor my orc boys can do anything this turn. Tried to make some charges here, but I did not manage. So my turn is a little bit lackluster. I was hoping to be able to get into combat here, at least with the Hierophant, because if I can't close that gap before the turns run out, I'm not going to be able to kill it, and I'm likely going to lose. So the big focus here is on the Hierophant and the unit where my block of squigs are closing in. Here we went and get some coffee and talked a bit about the game, and then we're right back at it again. It's his turn now. And he's trying to make some movement. He's moving up with his archer a little bit, moving back with his war sphinxes. Not really want to charge into combat with my big block here. He's moving up a bit with the Hierophant with his Magnus, or not the Hierophant, the Hero Titan, which is already a bit wounded, maybe presenting a target, so I want to attack something else. Now he's making shooting attacks with his catapult, but he did not manage. My turn again. I take some animosity tests, which I fail. I failed on my big block as well, so I got to use the Quell Animosity from my Black Orc Warboss. I'm declaring charges, and let's see how it goes. I get in with the both my squigs and the chariot is charging in once more. So this is a really important turn. I also hit him with the Magla squig once again. So this is the super important turn where I really have to go all out and kill his Hierophant here. So let's see how it goes. I'm not so concerned about the chariot and all that stuff. That's just like yeah, bonus if something good happens here. Yeah, and I actually managed to give his unit here with the Hierophant in the bottom here a spell that gives him a ward save. I think it's 6+ or is it 5+ maybe. So that was quite bad. And he's trying to shoot my dudes to pieces here. But I'm doing quite alright. Shooting attacks, he's missing once again. That skull thing hasn't been that accurate. Now he tries to shoot me, and here we are in basically what is the end. And what happened was that my chariot lost and was taken out of the game. I also lost combat with my squigs there at the bottom, as you can see, but I did manage to hit him once more with the Magla squigs. And you can see that his unit there at the bottom is really depleted. There's not much left of it, but unfortunately there's still enough left that I haven't managed to kill the Hierophant and cause something to crumble. I also managed to charge in with my Savage Orc dudes there in the end and hit one of the War Sphinxes. Lost some stuff, but yeah, it was a pretty even trade, I guess. So after we tallied this all up, he actually managed to kill a bit more than I did. So we actually won this game 11-9. So I lost the first game with 9-11. But all in all, I have to say that I'm pretty happy with that. It is only my third game playing Swedish comp. I played against an army that I'm not so familiar with, and I also played against an opponent that is really experienced and has done very well in the tournament before. So I have to say that I'm of course I would have liked to win for sure, but 9-11, I'll take that. Feels alright. So that was the first game, and I think the way that we're gonna do this is that we're gonna follow me and Andre and how our matches go, and we're also gonna look at the top 3. So I did lose my first game 9-11, and Andre did also lose his first game 8-12. And the guys that are in top 3, in first place we have Asaro. He's playing Warriors of Chaos and he won his game 20-0. In second place we have Thomas, and he won his games 17-3, and he's playing Empire. And in third place we have Tommy. He won his game 16-4, and he is also playing Orcs and Goblins just like me. And I could also mention that there is a total of 25 players competing in this tournament. Well, with that, let's go over to round 2. So it is game 2, and I am matched with one of the other guys from Ten Island Gaming. And my opponent this time has won the tournament before, and he's, aside from that, he's also placed very well. So it's a very strong opponent that I'm playing. He's playing a really nice Siege army with a unit of Nurgle guys. It's quite a similar army to the one that Andre is playing, but he has 2 Soul Grinders instead of 1. It's a really beautiful army as well. Super nice bases. In this game we are playing Battle for the Pass, so it's short side to short side, and when we get into the game right now we're already placed our unit, and what he's doing right now is his Vanguard movements with his Screamers. And since I played against the Screamers before, when I played against Gadrea, I know what they can do. I know that they can fly over me and cause wounds. So here he's starting his first turn and making some movements. He's flying up here with his Demon Prince, or it's a Lord of Change or whatever it's called. And one of his soul grinders here has the flag bombardment, but only one of them. Both of them have the claw thing that you need to do the initiative test to avoid. I'm not sure if that's a always, you have that always, or that's something extra you need to put, but it does have that on both your guys, both his guys here. Afterwards here we go into my turn 1 and I take all the animosity and stupidity tests and all of that. And I make all of them and I start moving up with all my guys here, trying to be the aggressor once more. I know from experience when I played against André that he wanted to make sure that he wanted to play quite defensively and use a lot of magic and a lot of like movement stuff with his screamers to cause problem for me. So I didn't want that to happen to me this game, so I started to be quite aggressive. And these first turns are quite uneventful. We're just closing in on each other. He's casting some magic, I'm casting some magic. Not much is happening. You can see that one of his unit of screamers has come in here on the back of my guys. But I'm not too worried since I have the war machines and stuff. I'm going to try to shoot them to pieces here in the end. I've managed to pick out one of them right there. And I'm probably going to pick out one or two more here. And now I go into combat here with the Soul Grinder. And this is really where the Giant does work. It's actually super strong when it comes to fighting monsters. And it's gonna make quite light work here of the Soul Grinder. My opponent was super unlucky. When using the claw, you have to pass like initiative test, and otherwise it deals like, yeah, it is lots of damage, multiple wounds. And when rolling to wound, he rolled once, like I don't know how many times, tons of times. He probably tried to use that attack maybe 6 or 7 times, and I think he managed like once. It was yeah, so he rolled once every time. So it was super disgusting actually. I was super lucky in that part. And here he did some wounds to my Night Goblins here, but I'm moving up quite safely. I'm not really afraid to get charged by any of his units. I mean, the Soul Grinders are tough, but other than that, I don't think there's anything I can't really take in combat. He's trying to hunt down my War Machines here as well, my Goblin Doom Divers, but I've turned my archers, so I'm facing them right now. So I'm gonna try to shoot apart the Screamers here as well. I just want to resolve the combat here with the Soul Grinder so I can move up the rest of my army. So I want to try to make that combat as quick as possible, because my units are once again, they're so wide, so I kind of lock myself out. And I could reform them, I guess, but yeah, it's a bit problematic. I did reform my Savage or Big Guns right there, so I can move past. We tried to make some Foot of Gork, but unfortunately I miss all of them, so not too much happens. I didn't manage to make any wounds using the Foot of Gork there. Actually, throughout this entire tournament, I didn't get to do much with the Foot of Gork, unfortunately. I have one game where I do great stuff with it, but you're gonna see later here. So right here we're making some combat with the Soul Grinder stuff. I'm in combat with both a Nurgle unit and the Soul Grinder, with my Squig Herders and stuff there. And now my unit got killed, so we have his Nurgle unit up there coming towards my Night Goblins. And those are quite like strong melee units, so I don't want to get into combat with them with my Night Goblins, because the Night Goblins are not that strong in melee. And here I forgot that I was supposed to release my Fanatics, so I got to do that a bit later. Now they come out and I hit his Nurgle guys. Just gonna check the rules. I know now that they move 2d6 random movement, and they do d6 strength 5 hits with armor piercing. So we go back a little bit, so he's 8 away, and I release the Fanatics and I don't get to hit any of them. And now his Soul Grinder is kind of facing like another direction here. So we are coming up here. I managed to take out one of his Soul Grinders, and now I just need to close the gap here. I feel like if I can get into combat with one of his units here, I probably have the advantage. So what he's gonna do here is he's gonna back up quite a lot. Gonna keep backing up, and throwing spells to try to keep like his advantage, because it's quite even right now when it comes to points. We killed just about the same amount here, and he actually managed to beat my unit of squigs and squig herders in that combat over there. So now this might be my last turn, or my second to last turn, but I'll try to move up all of my guys here. Yeah, and we're gonna go into a shooting phase. I'm gonna try to kill his Screamer with my RR boys. I'm also gonna try to use my Night Goblins to kill his Nurgle guys here. But first I think we are going into the magic phase. But I don't think nothing really happens, so yeah, we're once again going to do some shooting with the Night Goblins. Just counting how many can shoot and how many are long range and how many are short range and so on, because of course he doesn't want to lose this unit, but he lost almost all of that in that shooting phase, and the Screamer actually survived. So you see here, as I said, he's starting to back up. I think it's one round remaining, and he's gonna try to just go back, keep his distance, cast some spells, and hope that will be enough for the victory here. But it is super close. And this is the final turn. I do all my stupidity tests and animosity tests, and I did manage to kill I'm trying to kill the final Screamer here, but he's hidden away in the corner, so I really can't. So I'm gonna try to focus that Nurgle unit and see if I can kill all of them for some extra victory points here. And that's basically all I can do at this point. I did try to declare a charge with the giant as well, but that didn't work out. So now I'm trying to shoot them all to pieces, see if I can finally kill them, and I did. So there is another unit and some victory points in the bank for me. And that is the end of the game. The game was actually super close, but in the end it did go in his favor once again. So he did win with 11-9, so I lost 9-11 once more. So I've lost now two games in a row, but it has been against very strong players, and it's been very small losses as well. I haven't been stomped in any of the games, so I'm pretty happy with my 9-11s, even though they are losses. And since I did lose the first two games, I'm definitely not in the running to win the tournament, of course. But yeah, two super fun matches, and both of the guys from Tan Island Gaming were super nice. And they were, I think there were 5 of them in total over there, and all of them were super kind, super nice people. So I really look forward to going to the tournament once more and meet them once again. And I did lose my second game 9-11, and André did lose his game as well, 7-13. So it's going great for us at the moment. The top 3 is unchanged. We still have Asaro and his Warriors of Chaos in the lead. He won his second game 19-1, and he's at 39 points. We have Thomas. He won his second game 20-0, so he's at 37 points. And we have Tommy playing his Orcs and Goblins, winning his last game 15-5, and he is now at 31 points. And during round 2 I did manage to send my wizard into the warp during a miscast, and I was the first player to do so far in this tournament, so I did get a prize for that. I got 100 crowns or $10 at a Swedish Warhammer hobby store. So yeah, I guess every bad thing brings something good with it. And with that, let's head into round 3. So we have arrived at the final game of day 1. It's game 3, and me and Andrea has driven halfway across Sweden for 8.5 hours, and in the final game of day 1 we get to play each other. But there are some upsides to that. After a whole day of playing, you're quite tired, and it's a bit easier to be a bit more relaxed when you're playing against somebody you know. And me and Andrea has been playing some practice games before we arrived at the tournament, or one practice game to be exact. But we are quite familiar with each other's armies, so yeah, it's quite interesting matchup. And I can say that in the practice game that we played, I did lose. So I'm really hoping to get my revenge this time. So here André is making some vanguard movements, and a lot of his army can make vanguard movements, both the chariots and the screamers. And a big part of his game plan here is to use his screamers to fly over my units and deal damage with this sky cutter or whatever it's called. It deals damage when he passes over a unit. So in this game I have to be very, very meticulous about my movement to make sure that it doesn't end up in a weird position behind me. And this is one of the few times where my orc boys moved as usual. I failed so many animosity tests with them today. It's been absolutely crazy. So I march up my giant, move my mangler squig forward, and get a pretty good roll. He moves very, very far. And as you're gonna see here in my movement phase, I'm gonna measure quite a lot because I really want to make sure that he can't end up behind me in some way. So I really make sure that there's no way he can get in a weird position behind some of my units here. And this is basically my entire first turn, just a little bit of movement, and not much happens to be honest. And now we go into Andreas turn 1. He also measures some distance and stuff, and actually if you look here in the bottom, he managed to fly over a small corner of my orc boys over there. So he does actually manage to deal some wounds there, but they're no big problem to be honest. And there's not that much more happening. He makes a movement, flies over my guys. He managed to charge into combat with his Demon Prince and the chariot on my giant, so that is a bit problematic. And as you can see, the screamers on the far side of the table there is closing in on my aura boys. So he did get some good charges, and there he took out my mangler squig with some magics. So Andreas having quite an explosive first turn here. And my giant is definitely in trouble being in combat with both the Demon Prince and the chariot here. And there we see the giant was taken out, but it did deal some wounds to his Demon Prince, if I'm not entirely mistaken here. Here I release my fanatics, and I'm moving up so I can get a charge with my boar chariot in the next turn, moving up a little bit with my units, and I managed to charge into his chariot here with my squigs. And I'm very, very close to taking a flank charge from his screamer in the back. And since his Demon Prince is also his general, that is a really important target for me. So I try to use my Doom Divers and all my war machines to try to take that out. Because if I can kill that would be massive. It's around like 500 points, and also the general. So if I get that off the table, that might win me the game here. We have some close combat, the screamers against the mangler squigs, and here I do take a charge from the chariot on my aura boys there in the back, and I don't think they can stand against something like that. As you can see, Andreas playing quite defensively. He's keeping his units here on the back and a bit of the screamers in the front. He only has one wound left on his Demon Prince right here, so he's hidden it behind the house. And now he's doing his flag bombardment onto my unit of night goblins here, killing a few. And here I'm going to lose combat with my squigs, but they are going to explode, and he's only gonna have one screamer remaining after all of that. So here we're resolving combat once again against the chariot, and my squigs managed to take out the chariots. Those guys are tougher than they look. They're like strength 5 and hit really, really hard. Here I lost my aura boys, as you can see, up there on the hill. And now it is my turn. And he did lose his Demon Prince to a Doom Diver, so now he feels the need to go on the offensive. So that's why he did the charge with the Soul Grinder over there. So he's charged my large block of Savage Orc Big Guns with his Soul Grinder, and he's also charged me in the back here with his Screamer. but my big unit here managed to stand in combat against the Soul Grinder, and I also managed to reform as well. So yeah, things are looking alright for me at this point, I must say. Making some charges with my both my trolls and my chariot, and I'm gonna kill this screamer here, and my trolls are also gonna make light work of the unit that they charged into. So here I lost the screamer, and I'm kind of like moving up so I can take care of the Soul Grinder. Here you see the trolls took care of that unit there. I'm gonna reform them in a way so I can like encapsulate as many units as possible with my forward arc and make a charge. And there I did kill his Soul Grinder, and that was a big pain in the butt the last time we played. That gave me lots of trouble, but this time I rolled quite well and took care of it. Been charged again in the back by some screamers in an attempt by him to kill my general and my wizard, but it's not gonna be that much of a problem. I once again managed to stand in combat, get a reform, and fail the charge there with my chariot. And here I'm blocking myself with the Fanatic so the Orc Boys can't really move. And here I just destroy the screamers in combat once again. So they're gonna be taken out here. He do position his units in a way that I can't really charge them with my trolls, to be honest. I was hoping to be able to charge at least one unit and take them out, but it seems like that's not gonna be the case. And there the final screamers fell. And this is basically the end of the game. We don't manage to get anything else into combat at this point. And since I managed to kill quite a lot, I did manage to kill his general and his demon prince and a lot of other smaller units and his soul grinder and all of that stuff. So I killed a lot more because I still have my battle thunder bearer, I still have my wizards, I still have my general. So in the end, after we counted off the points, I did bring home the victory, 13-7. So this is my first win of the tournament, and it's against André, and we're sharing a room. And after this, we're gonna go home together after I've just beat him in a game. So, but it's all in good fun. But it was a fun game, and it was nice to finally get the victory as well, even if it was against one of my friends. So that is the end of round 3 and day 1. And I did manage to get my first win in round 3. I won 13-7 against André. And now we have a new top 3. So we still have Asaro in first place. And in this game, in round 3, he faced off against Thomas. And Asaro won that game 12-8. So now Thomas has actually fallen out of the top 3. Instead we have a newcomer in second place, and it's Jacob, the guy that I played in the first game, and his Tomb Kings is now in second place. And in third place we still have Tommy and his Orcs and Goblins. But that is the end of day 1, so let's continue tomorrow with round 4. So I'm sitting here with Daniel, one of the arrangers of this tournament. So we're in the start of the second day right now. How do you feel the tournament has gone so far?
I think it's going pretty good.
Yeah. How many players are here?
We were 26 that had from the start, then one dropout yesterday, so 25, and now we're down to 23.
Yeah.
So pretty good anyway.
Yeah, I think there's still quite a lot of people. How long have you been arranging this tournament?
We started 2 years ago actually. Well, just on the date, actually, and same local. So pretty good. We had run both February and August every year. Almost 1 year we had to postpone because of COVID.
Yeah, of course.
Anyways, I think it's like 5 tournaments or something like this.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. And I think I've been playing here for the first time this year, and I think it's been a lot of fun. Very well arranged tournament. So gotta give you props for that. And I think it's very nice to see that the Swedish scene is still very much alive.
Yeah, very much alive, I think. We've been growing every year. We started with 12 players and now like 26, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, and we have a large amount of people in the north of Sweden also playing, so we're hoping to trick them into coming down
Yeah,
here
I'm
for
hoping
the
so.
next year, so we can keep growing.
My goal has always been like a friendly tournament,
Yeah,
and just to meet up, play some games, have fun.
yeah,
It's been the most important thing for me. Rolling dice is just secondary. Talking shit is primary.
yeah. But I think you've achieved that. I was a bit nervous coming in. You never know really what to expect, but everyone's been super kind. It's been the atmosphere in the locale here is amazing. So yeah, I think it's been great.
Yeah, I think so too. And we introduced the Swedish comp system last time we played, and I think it's kind of balancing out some lists more. Some people like to play a bit harder, some a bit softer, and the comp is kind of balancing it a bit.
Yeah.
So still you can get tabled, but
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I'm in the start of day 2, and I lost 9-11 first game, 9-11 second game, and then I played won with 13-7. How has it been going for you? You're playing Dark Elves?
yeah, I'm playing Dark Elves. I won my first 2 games, one with 14-6 and the other with 13-7, and lost the third with 7-13. So pretty average, I would say.
Yeah, but it's still pretty alright. Some solid wins there in the beginning.
Yeah.
And as a Dark Elves player myself, I'm of course happy that you're doing well.
Yeah, it's the first time I'm playing Dark Elves like in tournament-wise. I've played some practice games in the start, like in the autumn and over the winter here.
Yeah.
And tried it out, so tweaking my list a little bit and trying to not go Witch Elves heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
giving us an interview. And unfortunately, I don't think any of these are coming home to the Miscast table, but lovely to look at, and we'll try to get an interview with the winner as well.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
So we have arrived at game 4, and we are playing meeting engagement. And I got matched against a guy that was playing a Vampire Count army. And this guy was definitely in the running for best painted as well. He had a super cool, like winter themed Vampire Counts army. It reminded me a little bit about the game of guys from Game of Thrones, the Wraiths or whatever they're called, can't remember. Or maybe like Arthas, Lich King from World of Warcraft. So it was super cool, and he's made some additions to his models as well. His ghouls were carrying like timber and lumber and stuff. So yeah, super cool army, and a really nice guy as well. So this was a super fun game. Alright, so here we are, turn 1, and I'm just making some movement. As you can see, in meet engagement, you do get to place some of your units in reserve. You roll a d6, and I think it's on 6 they get placed in reserves. And here I got my big unit of Savage Orcs and the Trolls placed in reserve, which is quite problematic for the Trolls, because if they're not in range of the BSB, they can't reroll the Stupidity test, but I am in range of the General, so that's quite a nice thing. And that was basically my turn 1. I just did some movement here, and now it's his turn, and he's declaring tons of charges. And I decided to stand with all my guys except the Nice Goblins, which are standing and shooting. And he failed the first charge, and he's gonna fail the second, and he is going to make the third charge here. But what happens when he gets within 8 inches? Of course, my Fanatics are released, and I do roll for them, and both of them manage to pass through his unit here and deal quite a lot of wounds. And since I'm standing and shooting, I get to shoot with all of my Night Goblins as well, so I'm gonna deal quite a massive amount of damage here. But he has the Lore of Vampires, of course, so he can bring some of them back in his magic phase, depending on how that goes. But yeah, here he is in combat with me. He fails the last charge, and here he's just gonna take his dogs here, I can't remember what they call, and walk into my Magla Squig. And when you walk into a Magla Squig, it is destroyed, it does explode. So he decides to take those wounds on those guys, instead of risking me hitting another unit here. And here he comes in with his reserves, and on the back he has his general and reserves as well. And we're resolving combat here. He wins combat with 1 here, I think, and I roll my leadership test and I make it. And then it's my turn 2, and I make these charges with both my Squig units. I charge in from the side here with my chariot, and I manage to charge in with the Giant onto the Terrorgeist and my Aura Boys into another unit of ghouls. So quite a lot of charges this turn, and I managed to beat his dogs in combat, and I reformed towards his zombies there in the middle. And there I managed to kill his unit of ghouls, and it's gonna be his turn again here real soon, and he jumps in with his general in the unit there in the front. He makes the charge, and he is into combat. He has some flying units as well that are in the back, but I'm kind of like shooting them to pieces with my artillery here. But yeah, he is in combat with his general with my big block here. Or my big block of night goblins. And you see that his terror guys took out my giant. It has like a screaming attack or a roar of some kind. And yeah, that was devastating. Even though the giant has a leadership 10, he still managed to do basically all of the wounds with that roar. Alright, so I'm gonna stop here for a while and talk about what happened, because this is a super important and pivotal part of the game. And in this part of the game, I do make a mistake that massively favors me. So what happens here is that we resolve the combat, or we make the attacks. His unit of ghouls and his general against my night goblins that houses my night goblin shaman and my BSB. And for some reason, this is the first game of day 2, if I'm tired or I have no idea. But for some reason, I've gotten it into my head that because I have a horde formation, I am stubborn. Or no, I'm steadfast. Which means that I should be allowed to roll on my full leadership. Which of course isn't true. But for some reason, I've gotten this into my head. And what happens is that I lose combat by 4. And I'm within range of my general, which has a leadership of 9. So 9 minus 4 is 5. So I should roll a leadership roll where I need to get a 5 or lower. And I have the BSB as well to help reroll that. And it's about a 50% chance of making that, getting a 5 or lower on 2 dice with a reroll. But instead, I have assumed here that I am steadfast, and I roll with the full leadership of 9 instead with the reroll. So this mistake obviously massively favors me, and it really doesn't feel good to make this large of a mistake at this point in the game, because it favors me so massively. That might have changed the outcome of the game, because if we start here once again, what happens is that I stand here after the combat is resolved, and when my turn starts again, I make a charge with my boar chariot. You're gonna see here in a second, I am going to make a charge with my boar chariot, and then I'm gonna charge with my savage orc big guns. Now I charge with my boar chariot, and I charge with my savage orcs. So we stop here again. So what happened was that because I made that mistake with the leadership, I managed to stay with my night goblin block, and then I managed to charge in with my savage orc big guns in the side. So this basically guarantees now that I will kill his general at this point. So that's quite problematic. Had I not made this mistake, there would have been a 50% chance that my night goblin unit would have run away. Would that have meant that the game would have been over? No, of course not. I could have rolled a higher flee roll than he rolled pursue roll, and they will be alright. And no matter what he would have rolled on his pursue roll, or I rolled at my flee roll, I would still have been able to charge him with my savage orc big gun block. So that charge would still have happened, but it might not have happened in the way as it did in this game. So this was a super pivotal point, and this mistake might have changed the outcome of the game. And we realize a bit further into the game that I have made this mistake. So my opponent is aware before the game is over. But we can start here again and check what happens. I make a charge with my squigs. Make a lot of attacks here. And we can see we're gonna resolve all of this combat in a second. And what does happen in the end is that his general dies here, and his units start to crumble. So at the point where they start to crumble, the game is basically mine. He has another wizard with the Lord of Vampires that takes over after the general, but I managed to kill that guy later as well. So at that point the game is basically over. I'm gonna win combat here again with my squigs against his zombies. And since we get a lot of these crumble rolls, both when his general dies and when his other wizard dies, his army basically crumbles to pieces at this point. And some fun stuff as well. After basically his entire army had crumbled, he had like 4 zombies left, and one of them charged my big block of Savage Orc Big Guns in the rear, and they actually managed to make that unit flee, and they pursue and basically drive them off the table, and then they reform and they do the same thing to my block of Night Goblins. So like 4 zombies kill like 800 points of my army. So but I guess that's what I deserve, considering the misplay I did earlier. So in the end I do manage to win this game 12-8 in my favor, but it is quite a bittersweet victory, considering I made such a large mistake that could have, and if I hadn't done it, the game could definitely have ended differently. But my opponent was a really good sport. There wasn't really any hard feelings. Mistakes happen, I guess, but yeah, still doesn't feel great. That was round 4, and I did win my game 12-8. So I now have 2 wins, 2 losses, and 43 points. André did lose his 4th game. He lost at 9-11. So he's now at 0 wins, 4 losses, and 31 points. And we have once again had a change-up in the top 3 standings. We still have Asaro and his Warriors of Chaos in the lead, 4 wins and 62 points. And in this game he played against Jacob and his Tomb Kings, and he won that game 11-9. So what happens then is that Jacob is knocked down to 3rd place, and we have Tommy and his Orcs and Goblins still in 2nd place, as he won his 4th game 11-9. So we have Asaro at the top, 4 wins, 0 losses, 62 points. Tommy 2nd place, 4 wins, 0 losses, and 55 points. And we have Jacob 3rd place with 3 wins, 1 loss, and 54 points. And with that, we head into the 5th and final round. So my final opponent in game 5 is playing High Elves. Unfortunately, I did not get that many good photos of this army. It was the last game of the weekend. I was a bit tired and didn't really have the time to take the photos, unfortunately. But it was a very nicely painted High Elves army. And I do have some experience playing against High Elves, because a player at my local scene, Martin, that has played High Elves on the channel before, as well as his Troll army, has been my opponent a few times. But the final game here, we are playing Battle Line. I got to start to deploy, and I deployed my Mangler Squigs, and he's deploying his War Machines behind the hills there and far back. I'm trying to place my less important units in the beginning, and now where I know where his big block is going, I'm putting mine on the opposite there. This is a very cavalry heavy list that he is playing. He has at least 2 units of light cav and 2 large units of regular cavalry. The archers he plays right now is super nasty. I think they have a range of 24, ballistic skill 5 with flaming attacks, which is a nightmare for units with regenerations, such as my trolls, for example. So we're going quite heavy on the opposite side here, just placing a few units on the closer side. Yeah, and here he's placing another unit of light cav, and these guys make really nice use of the cover here. The board that we are playing right now have a ton of terrain, probably one of the most terrain heavy boards that were at the tournament this weekend. And that is quite a problem for me because my units are quite wide and maneuvering them through all this terrain is a bit problematic. So I think the terrain favors him a little bit, but I can also hide from his shooting units, which are quite plentiful, so maybe a bit even. Now he's doing his Vanguard moves here. Vanguard move with 2 Eagles and 2 units of Light Cav. And then we go into his turn 1, and here I lose my Mangler Squig. So we should stop right here because this is a very important part of this game. So he cast a Fireball from a Ruby Ring onto my Mangler Squig right there. And he cast the largest version of the Fireball using the ring. And we actually missed that you're not allowed to do that. So that was a misplay, the fact that he could do that at all. And if we start here again, because my Mangler Squig died there, I had to do a panic test on my Night Goblins. They failed and they actually fled off the board. So I lost my Night Goblin Shaman, my BSB, and my entire Night Goblin block. And of course my Mangler Squig in the beginning of his first turn. I haven't even played my first turn yet. So that was quite rough. But I mean, that's stuff that happens. Sometimes you misplay a rule. The last game I misplayed the rule in my favor, and this time we misplayed a rule in my opponent's favor. But it's no hard feelings. It's stuff that happens. I don't think I played an entire game without doing any mistakes. So there's definitely no hard feelings. And we realized that this mistake had been made after the game was done. And he also casts like a spell here, which slows down the movement of my orcs. So they are like movement dwarf, I think. They have like movement 2 when that spell is cast. So that's a bit rough. Especially because he has a lot of shooting units, and it's quite hard for me to... Yeah, I need to advance to the other side, otherwise I'm just gonna get shot to pieces. So I need to be the aggressor in this game. Here I move up my giants. Also, he lost 2 of my trolls to his ballista. His ballista shot at my trolls, and it first of all it needs a 5+ to hit, I think 4+. But then he does multiple wounds, D3, and he managed to deal 3 wounds twice, so that was quite rough. So I'm down to 4 trolls, and I'm doing my best to advance here and make sure that he can't come behind me with the light cav. But the eagles and the small light cav units that he has are incredibly problematic, I must say. Try to cast some spells, but not much happens, to be honest. I haven't killed a lot of his units at this point, and now he comes in from the side there in the back. So he is basically marsh blocking me with his light cav unit, and there you saw his eagle flew against my doom diver, and his closest unit of light cav has hidden behind the tower right there. And here he's shooting again at my trolls, and they're getting absolutely smashed. There's only gonna be 2 trolls left after this, which is quite sad. And he's also started to pick off my other units of orcs and the squig herders here. So yeah, I'm basically just falling apart to all of the shooting and all of the magic right here. So I decided I need to be incredibly aggressive. It's a bit of a Hail Mary at this point. Just going all out and hope that I can take a charge with the giant and make something happen. I still have the problem with my big unit that they have lower movement because of his magic. He managed to get that off almost every turn, so I'm getting nowhere. Yeah, and here we got into combat. He charged my giant, and I hope that I can manage to take his guys out here, but it's not looking great because he has higher initiative than I do. So I'm gonna have to survive his onslaught first. He's also charged into me with his eagle right here. So charge one of my war machines. It's the Goblin Spear Shaka. And we are also in combat with the chariots there on the other side. And there I lost one big unit of, or the smaller unit of Squig Herders. Now we're resolving combat here, or I'm getting shot to pieces here. The Squigs is shooting with his the girls with the flaming attacks against them, and soon we are gonna go into close combat here, and there I lost my giant. So things are starting to look really rough here. He overcharges, but he doesn't get into my trolls. He's very close, but he's one inch away. We're fighting here with the chariots, and yeah, my chariot loses that fight against his lion chariot or whatever it is called. At this point I try to make charges everywhere that I can. I fail the charge. Fail the charge with all my guys except the trolls because they're so close, so I can't really fail that one. But the problem here is that I do actually get something fun here. I get Foot of Gork, the big one, and I stomp on his unit here multiple times. So he's actually in trouble here because that is his general. So this is like my chance to make a comeback here. And I stomp on him 3 times, I think. But in the end, I managed to roll it wrong, so he gets to stomp back on me again. My big unit here stomps on it. So yeah, he gets his revenge, but it's not too bad. I lose a few models here. And at this point I decide that it's time to resign. I've lost too much of my army. My trolls are dead. My chariot is dead. My night goblin unit, my BSB and my shaman is dead. Mangler Squig's gone. The war machines are up for the picking with eagles. Yeah, nothing is really going my way. All I have is the big block in the middle, but they are getting shot to pieces. So yeah, I feel like there's nothing I can do here. I do resign, and I give my opponent a 20-0 win. But afterwards we talk over the game, and we realize the mistake we did in the beginning with the Rubering and the Fireball. And we decide that instead of a 20-0 win in his favor, he gets a 15-5 win because of that mistake. But all in all, it was a really fun game. It was a fun opponent. It was a different kind of High Elves list. I haven't played against this kind of list before. Yeah, so all in good fun. Great game. And it was also quite nice to finish the last game of the weekend quite quickly, because you're quite tired after playing for such a long time. But unfortunately I didn't get my 3-2 finish. I finished 2-3 with 2 wins, 3 losses. So with that, the 5th and final game of the tournament has been played, and the tournament is concluded. So my final game I did lose quite badly. My biggest loss of the tournament, I lost 5-15. And in the end that puts me at 2 wins, 3 losses and 48 points. And Andrea did get a bye in his last game, which gave him a 15-5 win. So he ended the tournament with 1 win, 4 losses and 46 points. So in the end I got place 18 in the tournament, and Andrea got place 23. Alright, so let's take a look at the top 3 for the final time. And we had the grand final. It was Tommy and his Orcs and Goblins against Asaro and his Warriors of Chaos. And in the end, Tommy did manage to squeeze out the victory. He won the final game 11-9 against Asaro. And that makes him the only player that has 5 wins and 0 losses. Which of course makes him the winner of this tournament. So huge congratulations to Tommy and his Orcs and Goblins army. Feels nice that the faction that I played brought home the victory. That makes me quite happy. And since Asaro lost that game, he actually jumps down to 3rd place, since he has less points than Jacob. Jacob won his last game as well, and he now has 4 wins, 1 loss and 74 points. against Asaro's 4 wins and 1 losses and 71 points. So in first place we have Tommy, Orcs and Goblins, second place Jacob, Tomb Kings, and in third place we have Asaro and his Warriors of Chaos. But before we conclude the tournament, let's take a look at the awards ceremony and the awards for Best Themed Army and Best Painted.
Lite prisutdelning och sånt, men jag vill börja med att tacka alla för att ni har kommit.
Tack alla själva!
Tack alla som hjälpt till i fredags när jag inte var här.
Räddade mitt arsle kan vi säga.
Ja, precis. Vi har en achievement-pris kvar.
Vem trollade bäst?
Vem trollade bäst? Jag har inte hört någonting annat, så jag skulle säga att David trollade bäst. 700 poäng. Kom sig.
Ja,
Gratulerar.
Tack så mycket.
Yes. Sen hade vi ju 2 stycken andra. Vi har ju Best Painted och vi har bästa tema. Best Painted har ni röstat själva. Och bästa tema har jag och Niklas valt ut. Vi har kollat på målning, lista och sen armékomposition helt enkelt då. Och bästa tema får gå till Thomas.
Best Themed Army did go to Thomas with his Empire Army, and this is also one of those armies that were super cool, but it's also one of those armies that I did not get as much footage as I hoped of, but once again I'm going to share what I have. So congratulations to Thomas.
Best Painted, voted, Karl Ekeros.
And Karl got Best Painted for his High Elves, and in my opinion he was a very much deserved winner, and I voted for him as well. I did try to take quite a lot of pictures of his army, and this was before I knew that he was gonna be Best Painted. But unfortunately the footage turned out quite dark, so I don't have as good pictures as I would have hoped. But here I'm gonna share the stuff that I have.
Men tredje pris. Asaro. Andra pris. Jakob. Och den här som jag liksom graverade in Asaro på. Lite konstigt. Men Tommy. Och 1000 kronor från Jens att handla för.
Oj, ja.
Yes.
Greenskins representing.
Och sen
So I guess that concludes the tournament. It was loads of fun going to Falun and just playing the game for 2 days. And I also got to meet a lot of people that share the same interests. And it's really nice to see that the Warhammer Fantasy community in Sweden is really alive and well, and it's thriving. And for every time they hold this tournament, the number of participants just goes up. So yeah, it gives me hope for the future as someone who loves the game of fantasy. But I gotta say that it's harder than you think covering a tournament like this. First of all, you gotta be really careful with camera placement. You don't want to put camera in someone's face, and you don't want your opponent to be affected by the fact that you're recording the game. And you also want to focus on your own game and not focus too much on the cameras. And yeah, it's a balancing act, and it's harder than I at least thought that it was going to be. And I also hope that I could have had more time to conduct interviews and take more pictures of the armies and like a lot of that stuff in between the matches. But the truth is that there's just not enough time to do all those things. There's a very short span of time in between the matches, so you don't really have time to do interviews and take a lot of photos there. And when you finally do get like 10 minutes off where nothing's happening, and you could take the time to do an interview or film some armies, when you're already played like 2 games, you're quite tired and it's all mush in the head, and you're not in the right mental state to be super productive and do those kinds of things. So you just need to sit down and relax for a bit if you're gonna make it through the final games as well. And there's also the fact that there's so much footage. I recorded all of my games, and every game was like 3 hours at least. So you have like 15 hours there, and you have a lot from the trip and all of the like photos and videos from around the tournament. So I probably had around like 25 hours of footage, and you need to skim through all of that and cut it down to like a reasonable length video and do some commentary on top of it. It took a lot of time. It's been a month since the tournament, and I just got finished, and I had to really scramble to finish it this week as well. And if you have some tips on how we can cover the tournaments in the future, it would be nice to hear. What was good about the things I did in this video, and what can I do better in the future? Because there is another tournament in August, I believe, also in Falun. And me and Andrea and Jonas and some other guys from the local gaming association is probably going that time as well. So if you give me any tips or anything you want to see before that, I'm open for suggestions. I have been thinking for a while if I'm not gonna play and I'm just gonna like focus on the video production stuff, maybe some live streams. I don't know. We'll see what happens, and give me your advice in the comments down below. And I also want to give a big thanks to everyone that attended the tournament. Everyone was super nice and really kind and open to me filming as well. Didn't have any issues, and yeah, there were so much nice people. I got to hang out with Warhammer Fantasy players from all over Sweden, and it was loads of fun. And a special thanks to the organizers as well. The tournament was very impressively run. It ran super smooth without a hitch, and everything was prepared, and yeah, it was super well organized. And before we round off this video, I have one more thing that I want to talk about, or maybe like tease about, future content that's coming on to the channel here. Last weekend we started a Mighty Empires campaign in our local gaming association. So we are 10 guys from the association that's playing a campaign of Mighty Empires, and it's gonna be played over 20 weeks, I believe. So that's some extra content that's come to the channel. We're gonna cover every turn and every game and everything that's happened, and I think it's gonna be super good. And I'm playing my first game of the campaign tomorrow, and I'm playing against Johnny, who has been on the channels before, and he is playing his Lizardman, and I am playing my Dark Elves in this channel. Yeah, so I guess that's about it. If you did enjoy the video, give it a like, leave a comment down below. It really helps the algorithm do its magic. And if you watched this far and you aren't subscribed already, you should consider doing so. And I guess that's all from the Miscast table. See you all next time. Bye.